Hey guys, welcome back to Utterly Unfiltered with
Tash
and Cara.
I always lose track when you do that.
I know, but I feel like it's good. Tash and Cara sounds right.
Well, it's
the
good
sweet
as well
spot.
because it makes it easy for you to know whose voice is whose as well.
Also
at
true.
the beginning of each episode.
So that's your voice.
This is my voice, yes. I'm Tash.
This is my voice. I'm Cara. And this episode is focusing on tips for social anxiety this holiday season. So it's basically how to overcome social anxiety because the festive periods, I think, just by nature are filled with a lot of social type events. And that can be really triggering for some people.
Most definitely, yeah. Yeah, I thought we would just do a little chat about basically how to keep your cool this holiday period and, you know, let yourself have some fun without having to kind of stress yourself out or push yourself a bit too far out your comfort zone, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Before we go into it, what are your plans this holiday season?
Ooh, good question. What are my plans this holiday season? Well, I've got a couple of fun things actually.
Cool.
We're doing a wreath making class. We did one last year as well.
That's so cool.
So much fun. My one last year, I had it up all year round. I think we literally threw it out very recently because I did like a very neutral theme, like
nice.
very like kind of just like neutral colours.
Pretty.
Oh my god, it was so
in
much
Oxford
fun.
or in Norfolk?
It was Oxfordshire area or Berkshire area. It was just south between. It was with Ali's mum, his sister, and his sister-in-law.
Cute.
So we had a little girls' day. So we're all like kind of spread about 45 minutes from each other. So it was like somewhere that was roughly in the middle.
Nice.
In the middle of a little village. But we're doing it again this year at a different place. So I'm excited about that as
Very
well.
cute.
Very
Get you into the spirit.
Yes.
When is acceptable to start celebrating Christmas?
So I
In
am
your
going
mind?
to start next weekend.
Okay.
So the last weekend of November. Because I feel like last year we didn't end up getting our Christmas tree until like quite late. It was like the 16th of December or something. Just because we were both working 9 till 6 jobs at that point in time. And all the Christmas tree farms would like shut at like 4 p.m. because obviously it's dark, so you can't see the Christmas trees. So in the end, we actually called one up and asked them, especially if they could like stay open for us. It was just
Cute.
in someone's garden.
Yeah.
So they did, and we literally shone a torch to pick a Christmas tree.
Oh.
But this year we're going to do it. We're not working those kinds of jobs anymore, so.
You have daylight on your side.
Daylight, yeah,
That's
exactly.
good.
But I think we're going to do it next weekend.
Nice.
And also this year, I am fully in my, like, I want the most garish red and green decorations.
Yes, finally.
Ever.
Yes.
I'm
No
going
neutrals.
full blown. No neutrals.
No space for neutrals
Last
this
year
year.
I was all neutrals because my living room is blue and cream. So the idea of doing red and green with blue and cream, I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to have to stick with my neutrals. This year, I'm like, I do not care.
No.
I want a little Santa by the front door. I want, you know, my tree to be covered in like the most garish, like tinsel, coloured lights.
Oh yeah, over the top for sure.
Over the top. I want a garland down my staircase. I want little like snowmen on my coffee table. I'm going all out this
Yes.
year.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that for you.
I'm very excited about
Excellent.
it. Yeah.
I always I love going to garden centers
Yeah.
at Christmas time because I'm an old soul. And there's one that we have locally, Highway. Have you been?
Yeah.
I mean, have you been at Christmas?
Not recently,
Oh,
but yes,
you
they
have
do.
to.
Yeah, they do Santa there as well. don't
Santa, they've got the snowman. It's beautiful. So they decorate, the store is basically sectioned into different coloured Christmas decorations and baubles and
they?
themes.
Is it open already?
I don't know. Let's check.
Yeah,
Let's check it out.
If it is, we can go tomorrow.
Ooh, yeah, I know that would be amazing because it's so cute. Because they'll have like a blue and pink theme, and then they'll have like a silver and red section, and then they'll have the gold and green.
I
And
love that because then you can, for one, shop in one place, and for two, you can get inspiration as to what you want in your house.
And it's stunning. But at the same time, yes, I'm not that way inclined, and I'm just gonna have every color that you could ever think of everywhere. And actually, a friend of mine does like collect baubles from different places, so it's all just a collection of various different like
See, that's
mementos.
my favourite.
It's cute.
That's what we always do on our Christmas tree at my parents. We just have baubles from over the years and everything. But the difference, I guess, is that like my parents' living room is for one much bigger, and it already is gold.
Yeah.
So therefore it kind of already like adds to the color where I'm like, oh, my living room is blue. This is not a Christmassy color, but it's fine.
But we vibe.
Yeah, we vibe. Yeah.
No, I like it.
What
I
else
like
have
it.
got planned? We're going to see, I keep calling it Yorkshire, but it's not Yorkshire, it's the one below, Derbyshire, for Christmas this year.
Oh, nice.
So we're staying in a little Airbnb in a small village.
Your family? Oh, nice.
Mum, Dad, Lloyd, and Ali and me.
Cute.
So, and
Lona.
And
Of course, the dog.
Yeah. Which will be really nice because we weren't sure what to do this year, and I like going to little Airbnbs, and it's got an open fireplace and a hot tub.
Oh, so wholesome. That reminds me of like the holiday.
Yes.
Like with the British college version.
It's literally like a
cottage version.
It's like a little cottage barn conversion thing in a tiny village. It looks very
beautiful.
Cute. So, and it's good because it's like pretty good distance from mum and dad and from me, so a good little mid-ground. So
nice.
It's gonna be fun. And then
so cute.
Don't know, for New Year's I think we'll have a little party, but only a little one, not as big as last year's.
That was so much fun though. That was casino themed. So good. Such a great group of people as well. And the hot tub experience was fantastic. We emptied it out because there was so many of us in it that the water just completely overflowed.
Yeah.
But
so
funny.
Good.
Yeah,
something like that.
Lush.
Yeah. What about you? Well, I mean, you're not even going to be here.
No, so I'm going to be in Australia for Christmas with my auntie and my cousin. It's going to be lush. I don't know if we're going to do like barbecue on the beach type vibes. It's been a while since I've had a hot Christmas because in South Africa where I grew up, obviously we had them every year because it's their summertime. And we'd often do, my parents are quite traditional. We did a roast, but a lot of it involved like what we call a braai, which was barbecue version it's the version of barbecue. And just tons of meat and tons of food. And we did the Christmas trees. We had the Santa hats. We had the Christmas carols. It was all very festive.
I love that.
Which was great. But Australia will be interesting. It'll be different. I kind of hope we do a barbecue on the beach vibe because I think that would be pretty special. In Perth. But largely. And then Sydney a little bit and Auckland a little bit. Sydney would have been amazing to do the New Year's celebrations, but it's just too expensive, guys. I don't have that money. So now I'm excited, but my family are all going to be here together with the nephews and my niece, which it's always fun when there's kids around. I feel like you have that secondhand Christmas magic going on because of course Santa and the naughty elf, and this naughty elf business though, that's like a lot to contend with. That's every day thinking of something that it does naughty.
See, we never had that growing
We never had that.
No, I don't know what it is.
Scared the shit out of me, to be honest. Like something that comes alive at night.
Yeah, you would definitely think that.
I'd be like, no, stay away, elf. Anyways, so yeah, but it's probably less social events than I've had in previous years.
Yeah.
So for me, that's probably a good thing. It'll be quite nice. Although I have made some notes about social anxiety.
Well, you'll be traveling, so you'll be meeting new people as you travel around, I think, as well. That's true.
Although staying with family in Perth and then in Auckland, maybe will be a bit more contained. But, we'll see. Yeah. It'll be good, though. So social anxiety. Yeah. This is something people do often experience this time of year. This time of year because
there's a lot of commitments, I think, is one of the reasons why. So I mean, I think it also just depends on your preference as well. Like, do you have, Christmas parties and that kind of thing going on and social events? But I think in general, there's just a lot of pressure to like see people this time of year, I think, as well. It's like, oh, it's Christmas, therefore I need to make sure that I like, meet up with this person and see this person and do this thing or whatever. Which, I mean, if you don't suffer from social anxiety, if you're extroverted, I'm sure you find it absolutely fine. But if you are somebody who does suffer from a little bit of social anxiety or is a little bit more introverted, then we just have some tips and insights for you, based on our past experiences and things. So nothing too crazy.
Lots of like Christmas meals, Secret Santas, things where you have to actively be involved in stuff, which
I feel like we've slightly edged out of the age group now. We're slightly pushed out, as in I have much more chill Christmases now than I did a couple of years ago, and I feel like you're probably the same. Family orientated. And also, like, given that I don't have a corporate job, it's not like I have a corporate Christmas party or anything like that, but definitely in the past there's been those kinds of situations and things. So
okay, well, do you want to kick us off with some words of wisdom.
Sure thing, I will. Yeah, I think, well, there's a couple of things. So, obviously, you know, disclaimer and all that kind of stuff, like, you know, we're not exactly here telling you how to deal with your social anxiety. If you have really bad social anxiety, you know, therapist is probably the most qualified to talk to you about that. But I definitely had gone through ups and downs of it over the years, for sure. Definitely during uni and definitely during lockdown. I think during uni, one of the biggest issues was that there was so many negative interactions with people, whether it was like people I lived with or like friends who put me down, or, you know, I don't know, it was just like a lot of judgment and kind of like you're young and it's just like a lot of like negativity going around, or getting too drunk, very common during uni, having bad experiences, and then, you know, like having that kind of fear of like, oh God, you know, I'm just going to make an embarrassment of myself.
Yeah.
Like every time I go out, oh, you know, I'm just going to be embarrassing. I can't trust myself, or going on nights out and, you know, just talking to people like friends or whatever that just didn't make me feel good. And that kind of built up and up and up to the point where I just never left the house, to be honest with you, for like a huge amount of my uni experience in the end. It kind of just felt like every social event was just doomed for failure. Yeah. Like there was just, I've never been naturally extroverted. And so I think I would just beat myself up for like not being one of those uni students who could just go to a house party and talk to anybody and join in any game. And do you know what I mean?
There's so much expectation of that, because I remember even going to uni and people would say to me, oh, these are the best years of your life. You're going to meet the people you're going to be friends with forever, and you're going to find yourself, and you're going to, you know, and actually none of it happened. And it's probably because I was trying to force it as well, because I thought that should be what's happened.
Yeah.
But to be sure of yourself at that age, I mean, I'm not even there now. Now I'm quite a bit significantly more confident.
Yeah.
But still.
Well, I think the thing is that people say like you find yourself whatever, but I personally think a lot of the time during uni it's you're actually in just like a state of delusion.
Yeah,
the whole time, and it's like it's almost a downside to be self-aware, because then you're like you're actually seeing what's going on around you and what you're doing and judging yourself for it, versus just being like whatever and like, you know, being a bit delulu and just living your life. Do you know what I mean?
Delulu is the Salulu.
Salulu.
But also I agree, on a serious note, because I do think that being less self-aware equals happiness. Obviously you need to have a level of self-awareness to hold yourself accountable for things, to not, you know, commit mass crimes. So you need to have some kind of like level of awareness, but at the same time I think that's why people turn to like illicit substances. Like for me, I drank because I stop being so like in my head about everything that I'm doing, and I really just like don't really care.
Less inhibitions.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we crave.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that, but you can't at uni. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard, because you're coming across so many new situations, constantly thinking about how you're presenting or what you're doing or who you're meeting. It's very difficult. Sorry, I digress.
The alcohol of it all, for sure, is, especially, I mean, I think it depends on what country you're in, but in the UK, the drinking culture at uni is like crazy.
Wow, I know.
It's basically the whole experience. And so if you either don't react particularly well to alcohol, or you don't enjoy getting blackout drunk, you therefore don't fit into like 90% of the social interactions.
I think it's changed though since COVID.
Really?
I believe it's changed quite a lot from just a couple of people that I know that have like, that are actually going to uni for the experience of being at university and not just the alcohol. But that was actually one of my tips, was for me personally, is to drink less. I do tend to overindulge during Christmas anyway. But anxiety is real at the moment for me.
Yeah.
So that just kind of, yes, at the time, it's that short-term like lack of inhibitions, not caring what people think, just doing me. But the next day, questioning every decision. And of course, I'm not the type of person that is responsible and hides my phone from myself. I don't do that. So of course, I'm sending all these, you know, messages and posting a ton. And the next day is just like, oh my God, someone take it away from me, please.
You get the anxiety after the event rather than before the event. Yeah.
And typically it's so, I think 90% of the anxiety I experience is social, because it's constantly involving how I've appeared to other people.
Yeah.
So that's one of my tips. Hide your phone. If you're going to drink, don't drink. Then you don't need to hide your phone.
Yeah.
Do either. I'm not here to tell you. I'm probably going to do neither because I don't take my own advice. I just give it. Can we admit that on a self-development podcast?
Of course you can. We're not exactly here to tell you what to do. We're just more giving our own experience and our own advice based on that,
Yes. Yes.
I love how, like, one of my biggest flaws, I don't know what the word is.
Not flaws.
It's like...
Character development.
Yeah.
Points.
Is that I... like always feel like I need to give like 100 disclaimers, and like I never feel like I'm qualified enough to like tell anybody like what to do, even though if I actually think about my qualifications, I probably am fairly qualified actually when it comes to the whole world of psychology and personal development and therapy.
You have great advice.
I have a fair few qualifications in that area. But at the same time, I'm like, as in like literal academic qualifications. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but you can't take my word, like.
Which is a little bit imposter syndrome-y. And actually, I take your word a lot of the time. But at the same time, I feel like that's what this podcast is about. It's kind of like, life's not perfect. We don't have it figured out.
No.
We can tell you what we think that could help.
Yeah.
That maybe helps us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, I will be the first to admit that I don't often... like, I know what I should do and I don't often do it. That's my problem. Like, I know, like when we talked about in previous podcasts, like social media, I know I could take breaks. I know I could detach. Do I ever fucking do it? No, I do not, but I will one day. Yeah. And you helped me because you told me to. Okay. Yeah. So I'm here for entertainment value. Tasha's here for advice. Listen to her. Don't listen to me.
Love it.
Okay, so more tips for managing social anxiety over Christmas.
Yes. Something that I learnt, it was actually just after uni, unfortunately. I wish I'd had this during uni, but I don't even know where I learnt it from. I think I might have just been talking to a friend and they said it, but basically asking the question, what about you? You know how like when you go to a social event and someone like says to you, oh, so, how's work going? Or how's uni going? And if you are socially anxious or an introvert, or really struggling with that at the time, like I was really struggling with that when I was at uni, I would just not want to answer that question. Like I really hated people talking to me at all. Like honestly, sometimes I just wonder why I even went to any events, because I didn't want anybody to ask me questions about myself, but I didn't have the confidence to ask anybody else questions.
Yeah, okay.
So people would ask me a question and I'd give them like a one-word answer. And I would feel so bad because I'd be like, God, I'm so boring. Like, what's wrong with me? I can't entertain people. I don't know how to, I just don't know how to have a good conversation with somebody.
Which is just FYI not how at all you appeared on the surface. Just something to point out to people that how different people can feel.
Yeah.
How different people can feel and versus how they can present. Just
that's actually
side note. Yeah.
But something that I learned was basically if someone asks you like, how's work? And you say, oh, it's good. If you don't want to go into anything else, you can just say, what about you? And then you can allow them to basically talk and take over the conversation.
Yes.
And you can literally just continue with those kinds of questions. What about you? Oh, how's that going? Like, just having these little snippets. The what about you one just stuck in my head completely.
Yeah.
And I still use that to this day. Like, if I'm talking to somebody I don't know, or if I'm talking to one of my parents' friends, or, a cousin of my boyfriend, or whatever it is, someone who I don't know particularly well, and they ask me a question, if I don't really want to divulge that much information about myself, I will literally just go, like, answer the question briefly and then go, what about you? And it works. Like, then they get onto something and then I can continue to ask them questions, and I much prefer to be in the driver's seat of asking the questions rather than answering them.
And some people love to just talk about everything they've going on about themselves. Yeah, so that's perfect. Feed into that every time. Yeah,
exactly.
True.
So that's a really good one for me. And then something else that I think is pretty little harder to action if you are like in the depths of this right now, but something that made a huge difference for me is basically diluting the bad experiences by saying yes to more events with people I felt comfortable with. So that basically, I guess what that looks like is, for example, when I first moved to London, it was post-COVID. I had just broken up with my boyfriend at the time. I had no idea what I was doing with my career or my life. I didn't have a job. I was still technically doing my coaching business, but it kind of like stumbled off a little bit. And I just knew I had to, move out because I had been living at home for 2 years during COVID. Didn't know where to go, so I moved into a house with people I don't know in London, and just having that whole kind of complete life turnaround, basically. Where I was in life to where I was then, it was just a complete flip. And I went to a Halloween party at one of my friends, and I just couldn't interact with people. It was my first social event post-COVID. I had no idea what to say because honestly, my life had fallen apart, like, you know, technically speaking. So I did not feel confident talking about my life or myself at all. I wanted no one to look at me. But I was at Halloween party of one of my friends, and I felt so bad because, you know, she's one of my best friends, and I was talking to her friends, and I knew I was not making a good impression, but I couldn't
force yourself out of it.
I just
Yeah, it's
couldn't
impossible
shake it
sometimes.
off. And, you know, I had a drink, and it didn't loosen me up, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just can't interact with people. And in the end, I like left after a couple of hours. I was just like, I have to just go home. But that being my first like London experience put such a bad like mental state of like, this is it. I just don't know how to interact with people anymore.
Yeah, you psych yourself out, right?
Yeah.
One bad thing happens, and then it's evidence to yourself that you can't do something or that you're bad at something, and then that becomes your narrative.
Yeah.
Like you internalize it, and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
100%, and you replay it over and over again, and you start to believe things about yourself like, I can't interact with people in social, you know, I'm not a good party guest, you know, I'm not a sociable friend, like, you know, whatever. I can't think of what it would be, but you know what I mean.
No, for sure.
And that took me a long time to shake off, and what I realized made me shake it off eventually was, which I literally had to, because I was getting like such bad anxiety to do any kind of social event after that. And then I remember I had another friend's birthday party in the January, and I was supposed to go, and I literally like 30 minutes beforehand was like, I can't go, like I literally cannot, and I ended up cancelling. I felt so bad, 'cause, again, one of my close friends, like really don't want to be that person, because I am someone who shows up for people that I love, but I was like, I'm just going to let her down, because I'm not going to be a good guest, because I'm going to behave the same way as behaved in this previous party, and I don't feel like I have any control over it. So I was like, I have to do something about this, because I'm now living in London, all my friends live here, like I'm going to have to shake myself out of this, otherwise I'm going to go the rest of my life not being able to do anything outside the house without having a freak out. And so I was like, right, I need to start doing smaller things and proving to myself that I can interact with other people. So I would say yes to like smaller events, or I would even plan smaller events as well. Okay. So like I would say yes to meeting up with my friend and one of their friends, and like spend the day with them, or like, you know, I would invite like a couple of friends round for like a girls' night or whatever, or just like little things that obviously, because it'd been COVID, I hadn't done any of these things in 2 years. Even just hanging out casually didn't happen. Sure. So it's almost like you totally forget how to do all
of
course
the skills that you've built up. Yeah, 100%. That's kind of like my way of comparing that as like institutionalization, and I feel like we all became a bit institutionalized to the physical surroundings that we were existing within at the time. You forget that there's an outside world that exists, and how to deal with that. But I agree on that in terms of being selective with your time, and that often used to be presented as selfish to me. And like you say, when you said about showing up for your friends, but you have to show up for yourself first, otherwise you were no good to those people. Easy to say, really hard to do. But being selective with the types of events that you attend, I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And if you can't add value to somewhere where you're going, and you know that you're just going to be in your head the whole time, and it's going to be miserable for you, and other people maybe won't benefit from your company as much as they would if you were feeling great, then what's the problem with saying, and I struggle with this, I don't know yet how to say to people, or I don't yet feel like I can say to people, okay, we've had something planned for a couple weeks, but actually I'm just really feeling like I'm struggling today. Like I'm just not there. Do you mind if we reschedule? Okay, yeah, if it's a massive event, life event, or they really need you, or you're not going to see them again for a few months, then just do it, right? Suck it up, is what I tell myself. But if it's literally a friend who I see every other week, and we can kind of very easily align our schedules again, then I feel like I struggle to say, I just need time. But that's the one thing I should say, because what I do now is I make up excuses. Very naughty, but I'll be honest in that. Like, I'll often make up excuses because I just don't feel like it's legitimate to say I'm just not feeling it.
Well, that's the thing. And if you are like trying to unlearn some of these negative beliefs about the way that you socialize with people, the way that you interact in public, by putting yourself in situations where you know you're probably not going to be your best self, because either you're in a bad mood, or it's the kind of event that you know you're not going to thrive in, or whatever it is, then you're reiterating that bad belief about yourself.
Yeah, it's true.
Whereas if you instead be like, right, well, I can't do this for a while, but I'm going to do this instead, and I'm going to build myself back up again, you then like relearn positive beliefs about yourself, and you start to dilute those negative experiences to the point where, like, you know, now I can't think of the last time where I had a social event where I like felt anxious, or didn't feel like I behaved in my best self, or, you know, whatever it is. Like, usually before things I'll still get a little bit like nervous of like, oh, am I going to be the best version of Tash today? Like, I hope so. But when it comes to like actually thinking of examples of me not being my best self, it's been years now.
But that's because, again, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're now more selective of who you're spending time with.
Definitely.
And you're feeling comfortable with the people that you're spending time with.
Yeah.
Not feeling as obliged.
I have coping mechanisms for when I do need to, because, for example, weddings, you know, I've had 3 weddings this year that I've attended, which are, obviously there's select people there that I know and want to spend time with, but there are also people that I don't know, or people that I don't want to spend time with. And therefore, I have a, you know, like, you have to balance that, I guess, and be like, well, I can't say no to those things, and nor would I want to. I want the good experience. Sure. But I'm going to be prepared in advance to, you know, right, oh, I really want to catch up with this person. Like, I'm going to, you know, go find them, or, oh, I'm going to make sure I ask this person this question, or having what about you in your head ready to go.
So those are your coping mechanisms. You're almost preparing and anticipating.
Yes.
Who you're going to see, what you could talk, you know, some sort of talking points with them. Okay. So coping mechanisms at social events, I think, are really important, and it's interesting that you prepare ahead of time for them, and that gives you, I guess, a little bit, is it a bit of a comfort blanket to kind of have a fallback when
definitely.
You're struggling?
I think it's a comfort blanket, and I think it's almost like not being naturally extroverted, I do have to perform in order to be extroverted, and I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing, because I do get good things out of social events. You know, for example, one of the highlights of your wedding for me was being on the dance floor all night long.
Oh, so much fun.
You know, I'm not going to be sat in the corner because I'm introverted.
For sure.
Like, I want to be on the dance floor. I want to be having fun all night long.
Want to get to that point.
I just need to make sure that I can get to that point still feeling confident in myself and good about my surroundings. And I think in order to do that, like, if you're naturally blessed, extroverted and sociable, and you grew up that way, you probably won't find it hard to just come up with conversation on you know, a whim. But if you didn't grow up that way, or that's not who you are, like, I was a shy kid as well. Like, that's just who I have been. So therefore, in order to not be too shy, I have to just prepare myself for it, you know?
No, for sure. I think the coping mechanisms, it's so important. For me, personally, first and foremost, when we talk about being selective over what you attend, I think it's not overcommitting myself. So if I now have 2 jobs, 2 Christmas parties. Again, I'm going to be away for Christmas, so it doesn't matter. But I think what I would have been thinking about is, I can't go to both. I just don't feel like I probably can't afford to go to both. I don't want to, like, it takes a lot of my social battery, and being selective and maybe choosing one where I'm kind of more friendly with my colleagues. So I think there's, you know, and there's so many family events that go on. It's kind of like picking and choosing, I think, what you want to engage in. I have a bit of FOMO, so I struggle and I do overcommit and I want to do everything. But I think it's valuable. And then on that, it's, for me, if I'm at an event, particularly where I feel comfortable with the people there, if it's friends or family, sometimes it's just taking a bit of space. When things get a bit overstimulating, especially at Christmas time, there's lots of like Christmas carols, there's lots of auditory stimulus, there's lots of decorations, bright shiny lights, kids screaming, like it's food, drink, amazing things, all fun things, but too much of any of that and you can kind of, you know, you can tip into a bit of overstimulation. So there's nothing wrong with taking 5 minutes, stand outside, get some air, go to a quiet room. If you have an activity you can do, if you need to like read a chapter of a book, like I don't think that taking time for yourself is antisocial if it means you can then rejoin and go back and be more social because of it, you know? So it's making sure your bucket is always kind of full and it's not too drained. That would be one of mine. Yeah, and then I guess some people don't want to avoid. Some people maybe want to completely immerse themselves and accept and embrace all that Christmas has to offer. In which case, if that's you, great, go for it.
Yeah.
Those are my words of wisdom.
No, I totally agree with you. I think, just knowing your own limits, like you said.
Yes.
Of like, right, this is what I do want to do, this is what I don't. I don't have to say yes to absolutely everything, you know. And I think sometimes people could like be like, oh yeah, that sounds great, I'll say yes, and then get to the moment of having to go and be like, why did I say yes?
For sure.
That?
Yeah.
And I think just maybe thinking in advance and being like, right, actually, what can I handle? Like, what am I excited about? Because I think, you know, it's the whole concept, if we want to get deep here, of like, you have one life, you know.
Yeah, like, precious time.
It is precious time.
Especially when you're in your late 20s now.
Yeah. Spend that time doing things that you really want to be doing. Make positive memories, you know, forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do because you feel obliged or whatever, and then being anxious, feeling uncomfortable, and having those bad memories afterwards. No one is winning in that scenario.
No, it's absolutely.
Like, just pick and choose, and if you don't feel comfortable, like, just say no and do something that you do something that you will feel comfortable with instead, you know. I
mean, there's so many, you know, if you need that time, Christmas is fantastic for this. And I've never really felt, a lot of people, I think, I'm fortunate because a lot of people say they do feel lonely at Christmas. But even when I'm alone and I'm watching like my favorite Christmas classic, or I'm listening to a Christmas carol that I love, or I'm baking gingerbread, which hardly ever happens, but sometimes I do bake, that, like, those Christmas traditions that I can enjoy solo, on a solo basis, just mean that I'm kind of like, I'm doing that for myself and with myself, and I'm not having to impress people. I can literally just indulge in Christmas spirit
100%
solo, you know. So the balance of doing things by yourself, doing things with people,
absolutely,
taking time, being selective.
And I think there's this idea that we have to keep having these like life-changing, Instagram-worthy, out-of-the-ordinary experiences over the Christmas period, like going to like amazing Christmas parties and meeting strangers and or not even over Christmas, just in general, like, you know, going to raves, going to festivals, traveling the world, you know, like all of this like out-of-the-ordinary stuff. And which involves
I'm raving in my mind now. Sorry, I've lost the plot. And it's so early. We're already podcast 2.
Yes, no, you can't lose the plot just yet, I'm afraid.
Okay, it's all the coffee. It's the coffee rush.
I just think there's this idea we have to have these like insane, sociable, life-changing experiences. But like, honestly, some of my best experiences my best memories have just been like me and a friend like having a girly night, or, you know, seeing a play, or I don't know, going for a run in a new place. Like, you know, when we went to see when I went to see Taylor Swift in Edinburgh, one of the highlights of that, which is so crazy because obviously Taylor Swift is amazing and she's definitely a highlight, but, you know, the 4 of us went for a run the next day in the park in Edinburgh, and it was actually, we were blasting Taylor Swift on our phone.
That's fun.
We were running around, like, you know, it was so much fun and so ridiculous, cool. And that's one of my best memories. Like, and that was, we didn't go out after Taylor Swift and get drunk and go to a club and do anything like that, because that's not what makes us happy.
Sure.
And that might be the most, you know, like, oh, right, well, aren't you going to go out after a concert, you know?
Oh, no, I went straight to bed.
We went to bed, and then the next day went for a run. Like, that's my idea of socializing. That makes me so happy.
That concert was like going out.
Oh, God, yeah, I was on my feet for like 7 hours.
So I didn't wee once. And I didn't drink anything because I didn't want to wee once, because I was like right up squished at the front. But on that, I also put down in one of my notes was bringing it back to what's important to you and what actually is the meaning of Christmas. And I'm not saying that, like, if you're not religious, then, but, you know, for me, the meaning of Christmas is to reflect and be grateful for what I have. And yes, obviously the bonus is to spend more time with the people that I love. But it's decorating, and it's the lights, and it's the sensory elements, and it's just being grateful for what I have. And I think the pressure to socialize over Christmas is so real, but that's not what Christmas is about.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, at least. And it doesn't need to be. Christmas was never really, I don't think the point of Christmas was ever to go wild and nuts and seeing people every day. And like, I think it's actually just to like, I don't know.
Well, I think you're right, actually. I think technically, like, well, not technically speaking, that's not the right term, but like, when you look at like Christmas movies and stuff, seeing people like family, friends, catching up, reunions, that kind of thing, is part of the joy of Christmas.
Yeah.
But but that's morphed into parties and events and
how can you not come to this? It's a Christmas meal.
Yeah.
It's Christmas. You have to come to a Christmas meal.
It's like it's not my priority.
Yeah.
Love that.
All right. Cool. Have a great festive season, guys.
Yes.
Do what makes you happy.
Yes.
Pay attention to how you feel and your social filter. We all have one. Don't let it get too drained.
Yeah, your social battery. You mentioned that earlier, actually. And I was like, that's such a good point. I hadn't even mentioned social battery. I think definitely making sure you just monitor what you're spending it on.
Yes, and when you need to recharge.
Yes, exactly. So you can have the best stress-free Christmas.
That's the one.
Struggle to get that one out.
That is the one.
Alrighty.
Cool. Thank you guys for joining us again. Another week of Utterly Unfiltered.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be back same time next week. Next Monday.
See you next Monday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow.
And internally rave.